It's the curious details of a murder case transfix true crime obsessives. Some have elements that are particularly violent, bloody, gruesome, and unsettling. Worse, some slayings remain unsolved, meaning that the perpetrator disappeared into the night after the deed was finished. Here are our 5 violent unsolved murder cases that will bring chills to your spine. Number 1. The chilling unsolved Dardeen family murders. On the evening of November 18, 1987, police went to the mobile home of Russell Keith Dardeen, 29, and his family outside Ena, Illinois, United States, after he had failed to show up for work that day. There they found the bodies of his wife and son, both brutally beaten. Ruby Elaine Dardeen, 30, who had been pregnant with the couple's daughter, had been beaten so badly she had gone into labor, and the killer or killers had also beaten the newborn to death. The killings had apparently taken place the day before. Investigators at first believed that Keith was the initial suspect. The next day, however, his body was found in a nearby field. He had been shot and his genitals mutilated. His car was found parked near the police station in Benton. Forensic examination showed he had been killed within an hour of his family. Residents of Jefferson and Franklin counties, who were already fearful after more than 10 murders had taken place locally in the preceding 2 years, became even more so. Many armed themselves. Some suffered adverse psychological effects. Rumors held that the killings were the work of Satanists. Police soon ruled that out as well as other motives, most from illicit behavior such as drug dealing, marital infidelity or gambling. But the crime scene also ruled out rape or robbery as associated incident crimes, and in the absence of any clear cause or leads, the crime remained unsolved. No suspects were identified in the quadruple homicide until the 2000s, after serial killer Tommy Lynn Sells, following his conviction and death sentence for murdering a teenage girl in Texas, claimed to have committed the crime. However, he was never charged since prison authorities there would not let him leave the state to assist police in southern Illinois with their investigation, and they as well as the Dardeen family have doubts about his account of the killings. The case is otherwise cold. Number 2. The brutal Austin yogurt shop murders. The 1991 Austin yogurt shop murders is an unsolved multiple homicide case in Austin, Texas. On Friday, December 6, 1991, 4 teenage girls, 13-year-old Amy Ayers, 17-year-old Eliza Thomas, 17-year-old Jennifer Harbison and her 15-year-old sister, Sarah, were shot dead. Jennifer and Eliza were employees of the store, while Sarah and her friend Amy were in the shop to get a ride home with Jennifer after it closed at 10 p.m. A couple who left the shop just before that time, when Jennifer locked the front door to prevent more customers entering, reported seeing 2 men acting suspiciously. Around midnight, a police patrolman reported a fire in the shop, and responders discovered the bodies of the girls inside. The victims had been shot in the head, some had been raped. A .22 and a .380 pistol were used to commit the murders, and the perpetrators probably exited out through a back door that was found unlocked. The relatively organized method of operation, ability to control the victims, and destruction of evidence by arson indicated an adult with prior experience in crime, according to one of the original detectives on the case. Austin Police Department has DNA from an unknown male as a result of one of the rapes. A Y chromosome match for the perpetrator DNA has been found in a research database of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, but it has declined to reveal the identity of the man in accordance with the law of anonymity for donors, and because thousands of men could bear this fragment of DNA, which is unable to identify individuals. Number 3. The unsolved murder of Dorothy Jane Scott. Dorothy Jane Scott disappeared on May 28, 1980, in Anaheim, California. She had driven 2 co-workers to the hospital after one had been bitten by a spider. While they were waiting for a prescription to be filled, Scott went to get her car to bring it around to meet them. Her car approached them, but it sped away. Neither could see who was driving as its headlights had blinded them. They reported her missing a couple of hours later, after not hearing from her. In the preceding months, Scott had been receiving anonymous phone calls from a man who had reportedly been stalking her. He had threatened to get her alone and cut her up into bits so no one will ever find her. In June 1980, a man called the Orange County Register, a local newspaper that had published a story on the disappearance, and claimed that he had killed Scott. Police believed the caller was Scott's killer. From 1980 to 1984, Scott's mother Vera also received phone calls from a man who claimed to have Scott or to have killed her. None of the calls could be traced, however, because the caller would not stay on the line long enough. In August 1984, partial remains were found and later identified as Scott's. No arrests have been made in Scott's case. Number 4. The Smiley Face Killer. At least 45 deaths of young men are attributed to the Smiley Face Killer, but most police departments say he doesn't exist. Is there a serial killer stalking college-aged men? The FBI insists no one is drowning inebriated college males and leaving behind a painted smiley face where he dumps the bodies. But no matter how many times officials try to squelch the theory, the rumor of the Smiley Face Killer will not die. And the bodies keep cropping up. Nearly all the victims of the supposed Smiley Face Killer were white college men. The detectives speculate the motive may be jealousy, as all the men were good-looking, athletic, and academically successful. Because some of the deaths occurred the same night, but in different states, the Nick detectives altered their theory slightly, believing that the murders were carried out by an organized gang of killers. They believed their theory enough to reportedly use their own personal money to continue the investigation when official funds dried up. Despite this most recent case, even Gainin and Duarte have given up on their theory. After spending years and seemingly a significant chunk of their money on the Smiley Face Killer theory, the pair stopped researching the case in about 2012. The victims' families and a number of internet sleuths, however, still hold out hope that the Smiley Face Killer theory will prove to be true. It would lend some sense of meaning to the deaths of the many victims whose unexplained drownings still haunt their loved ones. Number 5. The Mystifying Case of the Black Dahlia. Elizabeth Short, more famously known as the Black Dahlia, was found murdered in Los Angeles, California. Because of the grisly nature of her case, which included her corpse being mutilated and severed from the waist, it gained rapid national attention. Betty Bersinger discovered the remains around 10 a.m. in a vacant lot in Leimert Park. At first, she thought she had discovered a discarded mannequin. The truth was far more grisly. Short's body had been bisected at the waist. Her intestines were tucked beneath her buttocks. Her legs had been spread apart and her elbows bent at right angles in a grotesque pose. Short's face was slit from ear to ear in a maniacal Joker face rictus. Her breasts were slashed, her nose broken, vulva mutilated, and her body was drained of blood. The details surrounding Short's life are largely unknown. It's believed she was an aspiring actress. The case is one commonly cited as being one of Los Angeles County's most famous unsolved murders and had been the source of countless books and films. And yet, no convictions were ever made. The open-endedness of the Black Dahlia murder stoked the ensuing pop culture bonfire. Which one of our 5 violent unsolved murder cases did you find the most chilling? Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.